Google just showed the future of Android, and it is not really about phones anymore. It is about turning your phone, browser, laptop, watch, car, and eventually glasses into one giant Gemini-powered assistant. Not an app, not a chatbot, an intelligence layer. A thing that can read what is on your screen, understand the task, fill the form, browse the web, build the widget, answer from your messages, organize your day, and quietly become the connective tissue between every device you own. That is the pitch, and the pitch is genuinely exciting. Also a little creepy, which is usually how you know the future has entered the room and put its feet on the furniture. Because this is not just new Android features. This is Google showing the skeleton of an agent operating system. A phone that does not just wait for taps. A browser that can click for you. A laptop built around AI suggestions at the cursor. A car that can use your context to answer, order, and assist. A watch and future glasses ecosystem waiting for the same intelligence layer to spread outward. Helpful? Absolutely. Dangerous? Potentially. Because once the operating system starts acting on your behalf, the question is no longer, does the AI sound smart? The question is, what can it see? What can it change? What requires permission? What gets stored? And how easy is it to stop? That is the reality filter. Google says Android is moving from an operating system into an intelligent system. That sentence should make your eyebrows move. Because operating systems used to run your apps. Now Google is saying the operating system should understand your life well enough to help act inside it. That is a big deal. And if this works, Android becomes less like a phone interface and more like a personal operator. A helpful little digital butler. Or, if the controls are bad, a permission octopus with excellent branding.
Chapter 1. Android stops waiting.
Let's start with the big shift. For most of smartphone history, Android has been a launcher. You tap the icon, the app opens. You do the thing. Then you leave the app, open another app, copy something, paste something, search something, forget what you were doing, and somehow end up watching a video about restoring medieval shoes. Normal phone behavior. Deeply cursed. Very human. The old operating system was mostly passive. It waited. You had to know which app to open. You had to know where the information lived. You had to move data between little rectangles yourself. Google's Android show was basically saying, what if Android stops waiting? What if the phone understands enough context to do the boring middle steps for you? That is what Gemini intelligence is supposed to be. A proactive AI layer for Android devices. Not just ask Gemini a question, more like ask Gemini to do something across your phone. Google's examples are very revealing. Turn a grocery list into a delivery cart. Use a photo of a travel brochure to find a matching tour. Find a class syllabus in Gmail and put the required books in a cart. Track the task in notifications while Gemini works in the background. Then stop at the final confirmation. That is not a chatbot. That is an agent touching normal life. And the important part is not the grocery list. The important part is the pattern. Screen context becomes action. Image context becomes action. Email context becomes action. App context becomes action. That is the engine of the next Android. You are no longer just switching between tools. The intelligence layer is supposed to move between tools for you. And if you have ever tried to fill out a long mobile form on a tiny screen, you can understand why this is appealing. Mobile work is death by 1,000 text fields. Address, name, email, order number, reservation number, loyalty account, Delivery instruction. Checkbox, checkbox, checkbox. Secret checkbox that means they can email you until the sun dies. Google's answer is smarter autofill, powered by Gemini's personal intelligence. The idea is that Android can use relevant information from connected apps to fill complex forms more intelligently. And Google says that connection is opt-in, which matters, because this is exactly where the convenience starts asking for context. To fill the form, the system needs to know things. To know things, it needs access. And access is where the episode becomes real. This is the trade hiding inside every useful AI feature. The more helpful the assistant becomes, the more it needs to see. A dumb phone can be private because it knows nothing. A brilliant phone wants context. And context is another word for parts of your life. That does not mean the feature is bad. It means the controls have to be boringly excellent. Google clearly knows this because the company keeps using language about user command, final confirmation, opt-ins, and control. Good. That is the right direction. But the standard has to be high, because when a phone starts automating apps, the permission model is not a footnote. The permission model is the product.
Chapter 2. The browser learns to click.
Now, let's move to Chrome, because this may be the most important part of the whole event. The browser is learning to click for you. That is the simple version. Chrome on Android is getting Gemini features, including auto browse. Google describes tasks like booking parking or updating an order. In other words, the browser is not just summarizing the page, it is beginning to operate inside the page. That is a huge shift. Because the web is where normal life turns into admin sludge. Booking, comparing, filling forms, updating orders, looking up confirmation numbers, changing reservations, finding the one tiny cancellation button that websites hide like it contains nuclear launch codes. If Gemini and Chrome can handle some of that, people will use it, because everyone hates web chores. Everyone. Somewhere, right now, a grown adult is trying to reset a password on a mobile browser and losing a small piece of their soul. So yes, auto browse could be genuinely useful, but it is also where the danger gets sharper, because the web is not a clean database. The web is a carnival. It has ads, dark patterns, fake buttons, pop-ups, scam pages, consent banners, confusing checkout flows, hidden fees, and now, in the age of AI agents, prompt injection. Prompt injection is basically the web whispering bad instructions to an AI that is trying to help you. The page says one thing to you and another thing to the agent. And if the agent is not built carefully, the page can become part of the instruction environment. That is why Google's security language matters here. Google says auto browse is built with protections against emerging threats like prompt injection, and it asks for confirmation before sensitive tasks like purchases or social posting. That is good, but again, the real test is not the demo. The real test is the messy web. Can it tell the difference between your intention and the page trying to manipulate it? Can it resist fake urgency? Can it avoid clicking the wrong thing? Can it tell you what it is about to do in a way normal people actually understand? Can it stop before the expensive part? Because an AI that can browse for you is useful. An AI that can misunderstand a checkout flow is a very fast way to accidentally buy 3 inflatable kayaks and a subscription to artisanal dog vitamins. Here is the key distinction. Browser AI that summarizes is low risk. Browser AI that acts is infrastructure. Once Chrome starts doing tasks, the browser becomes a tool-handling environment. That means confirmations, logs, visible progress, and reversibility matter more than cute phrasing. And this is exactly where Google's Android strategy becomes bigger than Android. A phone agent helps inside apps. A browser agent helps on the open web. A laptop agent helps at the cursor. A car agent helps while driving. Put those together and you are no longer talking about isolated features. You are talking about an agent layer spread across your computing life. That is why this Android show matters. Not because every feature will work perfectly on day one. They won't. The important part is the direction. Android is becoming the place where Gemini does things.
Chapter 3: Googlebook
And the agent laptop. Now for the sleeper announcement. Googlebook. And yes, the name sounds like someone said Chromebook into an AI naming generator and it came back with, what if we just Googled the book? But the idea is more interesting than the name. Googlebook is a new laptop category built around Gemini intelligence. And if you only hear Google made another laptop, you miss the point. The point is that Google is trying to rethink the laptop around an AI layer from the beginning. Not as a sidebar, not as a button, not as a chatbot tab you forget exists, as a core interaction model. The best example is Magic Pointer. Google says the cursor itself can offer contextual Gemini suggestions when you point at things on screen. That sounds small until you think about how important the cursor is. The cursor is the hand of the computer. It is how you indicate attention. It is how you say, this thing. It is the silent gesture behind almost every desktop action. So if Gemini lives at the cursor, the AI is no longer waiting in a box. It is sitting at the point of action. Point at a date in an email, and the assistant can suggest a meeting. Select two images, and it can help combine or visualize them. Look at a piece of information, and the system can offer the next step right where your attention already is. That is not just a feature. That is a bet about interface design. The old laptop model was, you open the app, find the command, and do the work. The agent laptop model is, you point at the thing, and the system suggests what can happen next. That is powerful. It is also exactly where things can get annoying. Because contextual help is only helpful when it knows when to shut up. If the Magic Pointer becomes a tiny AI intern popping up every time you move the mouse, people will try to throw the laptop into a lake. There is a fine line between proactive and needy. But if Google gets the balance right, this is a real shift. The computer stops being a passive workspace and becomes a surface that understands context. Then there is Create My Widget. This is the other big clue. Google is taking the first step toward generative UI. You describe the widget you want, and Gemini builds a custom dashboard. Meal prep recipes, weather stats that only show wind and rain, travel plans pulled into a family reunion dashboard, flight information, hotel reservations, restaurant bookings, countdowns. That may sound like cute customization, but it hints at something much bigger. Interfaces are becoming generated. Instead of every user adapting to the same app layout, the system can start adapting the surface to the user's task. That is a major shift in how computing feels. Today, most people live inside app shapes designed by companies. Tomorrow, more of the interface may be assembled around your current intention. Again, useful. Again, permission heavy. Because for Gemini to build the helpful dashboard, it may need to search the web, read your Gmail, check calendar, understand your files, and connect across devices. This is why Googlebook matters. It is not just a laptop. It is the physical shape of Google's Agent OS idea. Phone integration, Chrome, Android apps, custom widgets, magic pointer, Gemini intelligence at the center. A laptop that tries to make AI native to the workflow, not stapled to the side. That could be the future of personal computing. Or it could be the world's most expensive suggestion machine. The difference will be reliability, restraint, and control.
Chapter 4. The Permission Octopus.
Now let's talk about the permission octopus, because that is the real villain of this episode. Not Google, not Gemini. The villain is the slow creep from helpful context into ambient dependency. One arm wants your screen. One arm wants your apps. One arm wants your Gmail. One arm wants your calendar. One arm wants your browser. One arm wants your car. One arm wants your laptop. One arm wants your watch. Every arm is useful. Every arm can be justified. And suddenly, the octopus is very comfortable in your life. That is the central tension of Gemini intelligence. The best case is genuinely good. Android becomes less annoying. Your phone handles the boring parts. Your browser saves you from web chores. Your laptop understands what you are pointing at. Your car can help with tasks without making you poke at a screen while driving. Your watch gets custom information that actually fits your life. Your future glasses, eventually, may bring that same context into the world around you. That is useful. That is the dream version. A personal operating layer that reduces friction. But the skeptical version is also very real. The operating system becomes the assistant. The assistant becomes the interface. The interface becomes the gatekeeper. And the gatekeeper belongs to one company. That is the part worth watching. Because once the OS starts acting for you, the line between device and platform gets thinner. Is your phone still just your device? Or is it becoming a platform-native personal agent? That question matters because agents create dependency. If your phone learns your workflows, builds your widgets, fills your forms, browses for you, answers in your car, and lives at your cursor, switching away becomes harder. Not impossible, harder. That is how lock-in evolves. Not by trapping you with chains, by becoming convenient enough that leaving feels like giving up a piece of your nervous system. So what would make me confident? Granular controls that normal people can understand. Clear confirmations before sensitive actions. Visible progress whenever the AI is acting. Activity logs that show what it did and which apps it touched. Easy off switches. Local and private processing where possible. Strong defenses against prompt injection. No dark pattern permission flows. No proactive features that quietly become intrusive. And above all, the user stays the boss. Not the model, not the platform, not the predicted next action. The user. Google's security post is clearly trying to pre-answer this critique with explicit user control, comprehensive data protection, operational transparency, app-specific controls, confirmations, activity history, and visibility when Gemini is working. That is the right language. Now the question is whether the product behaves that way when millions of people use it outside the keynote bubble. Because if the controls are real, this could be a meaningful step toward useful personal agents. If the controls are confusing, buried, or too broad, this becomes the helpful-looking permission octopus. And nobody wants to wake up inside an octopus. Especially not one with access to your calendar.
So where does this leave us? Best case? Android becomes dramatically less annoying. Gemini intelligence kills the repetitive phone chores. Chrome handles the web sludge.
Googlebook makes laptops feel more contextual, and the car becomes helpful without becoming distracting. The AI does what you asked, shows what it is doing, asks before anything important, and stops when the task is done. That would be a real improvement. Most likely, the first version is useful in narrow, polished examples: grocery lists, parking reservations, order updates, forms, summaries, widgets. A few app automations that feel magical when they work and mildly embarrassing when they don't. Users will still need to supervise anything important, which is fine. That is how agent technology grows up. Worst case, Android becomes a permission maze wearing a helpful smile. The features ask for more context than users understand. The assistant acts in ways people did not expect. Auto browse is too unreliable. The controls technically exist, but normal users cannot reason about them. And proactive becomes the polite word for, why is my phone doing stuff? That is the nightmare version. So here is the viewer checklist. Before trusting any agentic Android feature, ask, what can it see? What can it change? What requires confirmation? What is stored? What is processed privately? Can I see what it did? Can I turn it off without hunting through 12 menus and a spiritual trial? Those questions matter more than the demo. Because Google's Android show was not really about Android features. It was about agentic Android. A phone that can act. A browser that can act. A laptop that can suggest at the cursor. A car that can use context. A platform that wants Gemini intelligence to become the connective tissue across everything. That future is powerful. It may be genuinely useful. It is absolutely worth watching carefully, because once the operating system starts acting for you, permission design becomes the whole game. Signal over hype. Subscribe to join the expedition.